still remember the first time I tried to show my family what I was passionate about. I was barely 20, standing in the dusty corner of my shed, fingers trembling over a piece of aged cedar, trying to carve the first notes into a handmade violin. My dad's voice cut through the quiet, harsh, dismissive, like a slap to my soul. "You're wasting your time," he said. "That's not a real job. You're just fooling around with toys. You'll never make it, and you'll embarrass us all." My mother shook her head, her eyes full of worry, not admiration. "It's a hobby, honey. You should focus on something practical, something you can actually live off of." And my brother, sneering, said, "Who even cares about those stupid little instruments? Grow up! Get a real job!" They didn't just dismiss my dream. They tore it apart. I was a fool, an embarrassment, a waste of space. So I left that day, carrying the weight of their words like chains. I could have given up, given in, but something inside refused. I knew I was meant for more. I packed my bags, left the farm, and headed to the city with nothing but a battered violin and a stubborn heart. I knew I had to prove them wrong, not just for me, but for that tiny, flickering hope I clung to, the belief that my craft mattered, that my music could heal. Years blurred into a relentless pursuit. I apprenticed with master luthiers, learned the delicate art of shaping wood, understanding the soul of each piece. I poured everything into creating instruments that weren't just sound boxes. They were stories, feelings, memories molded into wood and string. The ridicule never fully left me. Friends laughed, saying I was chasing an impossible dream. Investors shrugged me off. My own family, those who had once dismissed me, never saw the worth of what I was building. I was mocked as the weird instrument guy, a craftsman with no practical future. But I kept going. I built, I tuned, I perfected. Each instrument became an extension of myself, unique, soulful, alive. Slowly, the world began to notice. Musicians started seeking out my creations, claiming they felt something different when they played my instruments. Their melodies carried a depth that words couldn't express. And then came the breakthrough. A renowned orchestra commissioned a set of handcrafted violins, and they chose mine. The critics raved about the warmth, the richness, the emotion that poured from those strings. My name started appearing in magazines, in concert halls, on playlists. I had, against all odds, carved my space in the world. But the real transformation wasn't just in my reputation. It was in what I created beyond the music. I realized that the true power of my craft wasn't just in the sound, but in the healing it could bring. I began planting orchards, restoring barren lands with trees, and turning neglected spaces into lush, thriving ecosystems, all inspired by the harmony of my instruments. The melodies I crafted became symbols of renewal, hope, and resilience. And it was that growth, both of land and spirit, that finally made me come home. I returned to that old farm, now transformed. The fields were alive with green, rivers flowed clearer than I remembered, and the air was thick with the scent of blooming life. My family saw me, not as the foolish dreamer they once mocked, but as a man who had built something lasting, something that touched lives and transformed landscapes. They watched in stunned silence as I carried a box into the living room. A handcrafted cello, polished and gleaming under the sunlight streaming through the window. I sat down, drew my bow, and let the first note fill the room. The sound was pure, full of emotion, like the wind itself. It was a melody of resilience, of rebirth. My father's jaw tightened, and for a long moment, he looked away. My mother's hand trembled as she reached out, clutching my arm as if to hold on to the moment, to hold on to me. Then I spoke, voice steady but trembling with emotion. You told me I was wasting my time, that I was an embarrassment, but I built something you couldn't see. The land, the music, the hope. All those years I was fighting to prove that what I love has worth, that my craft matters. And now I'm showing you what's possible when you believe in something with all your heart. The silence stretched, thick with unspoken truths. My words hung in the air, powerful and raw. My father finally looked at me, tears in his eyes. We were wrong, he whispered, voice thick. You weren't wasting your time. You were building something real. I see that now. In that moment, I understood that the greatest triumph wasn't just in the success of my craft or the land I had restored. It was in breaking down the walls of doubt and prejudice, proving that resilience and passion can rewrite a life story. And as I played that melody, my melody, I realized that the real victory was in the healing, the melody that united us, that mended the fractures I'd once thought unbreakable. My family saw me not as the foolish dreamer, but as a man who turned dreams into reality, who turned barren earth into a sanctuary of sound and life. That day, I learned something profound. The power of persistence, of faith in your own worth, can transform even the deepest wounds into sources of strength. My story isn't just about music or land. It's about the unyielding belief that your passion, no matter how dismissed, can change the world. And I hope, with every note I play, that others will hear that message. Because sometimes the greatest victories come from the most unlikely places. Sometimes the melody of redemption is the most powerful song of all.